From the Echo Network Studios here in Royal Oak, Michigan, this is Odd Musings, and welcome back to our special Star Wars episode.
Star Wars.
Yes, we are your hosts.
Star Wars.
And I'm your host, Brett Pinson.
And I'm Scott Zambelli.
Your other host today. We have someone hiding in the studio here, so we're not going to talk to him. So it's just us today. And we got Jay handling the board for us. Hi, Jay. How you doing, buddy?
Great, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Good to have you here.
So, yeah, this is our special Star Wars episode, December 20th, 2017. By now, you have all seen Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Spoiler, at the end, they run the credits.
Yeah, we will not be talking spoilers on this. We have the added benefit of this being a pre-recorded episode. So.
Yes. So while
we actually don't know spoilers.
So while we know everything now at this playing of it, we're not going to tell you.
Yes.
Neener.
But we will be doing me and Brett will both be seeing Last Jedi when it comes out, which would have already happened at this point when this airs. So we will be doing a review online, so look for that, and that will have spoilers in it.
Yep, so watch for that on our... It's actually, by the time you guys are hearing this or watching it on Facebook, our Facebook post and YouTube video of this should have already aired.
Yep.
For the spoilers, so definitely check that out. We get to talk about a lot of fun stuff with that, and... of course, as this is going on, I'm not live in the studio. I'm live in Florida.
That's right. Now, I'm willing to lay odds that I will probably be very happy with with episode 8.
I think so. I'm excited about it. I've liked everything I've seen. It's going to be the longest Star Wars ever.
Yes.
At least to this point, unless something changes in the future with the other ones being even longer, but I don't think they will be.
Right.
But I like the fact that they aren't saying you got to stay only 2 hours. So,
yeah, Lucas, if I remember right, I want to say it was like 2 hours and 10 minutes was like where he set his limit, at least when he was doing the prequels. And then when he moved on to... Good job, Jay. Our producer, Jay, just had to crawl out of the room and go underneath the camera.
Yes.
He had a good army crawl going. A little behind the scenes.
He's preparing to be the Grinch.
Yeah. Speaking of, I had shared a post today on Facebook, a video of Darth Santa.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That was great.
Santa Claus is sneaking into people's houses and ruining.
Now, for those of you that
everything.
are wondering where that post is, that's a few weeks in the past.
Yes.
Since we're recording this in the past.
Yes.
So Scott's going to try and remember. He'll forget, though.
I'll try to repost it. But I'm sure if you do a search for Darth Santa, you'll find it.
Oh, I'm sure that you. Yeah. Just Google Darth Santa.
It's pretty funny. The ending was not what I expected. I won't give away the spoiler alert.
Yes, no spoilers on that.
Yes.
But, for those of us that know us both, Scott, would I have to say, is the bigger Star Wars fan because he has built armor, and he's built a a Rebel pilot outfit. So,
well, I built my Stormtrooper.
Yeah, in front of me on the video is the Rebel pilot helmet you built.
That's correct. I'm forever in the process of finishing my flight suit. I have all the bells and whistles for the X-Wing suit. I still got to finish the flight suit. So... hopefully, in the somewhat near future, I'll do that.
And this is your actual TK helmet in front of you.
Yep. And for those who don't know, TK is the Stormtrooper. It stands for Trooper Knight.
There you go.
Not many people know that.
I'm sure a lot of people didn't,
What people might recall is TK421, why are you not at your post? From episode 4.
And it's good considering that Lucas probably never even thought of what TK stood for, did he?
No, my belief is, I think it was always Trooper Knight was the original... term used in the original scripts, I believe.
Okay.
Or the earliest scripts.
And as much as I've read stuff, it's something I never came across in all the years I've read.
Yeah, they just ended up making it TK numbers, and then they just generically called them Stormtroopers.
Okay.
And now what a lot of people don't realize is Stormtroopers is a rather broad category. You have biker scouts, snow troopers, all these different categories. Technically, they are all Stormtroopers.
Right.
It's just those are specialized units within the Stormtroopers. Whereas the regular Stormtrooper that we all know and love, the actual good guys in the movies, not those terrorist rebels who disobey the democratically elected Palpatine.
There we go.
The famous Clerks argument about all the plumbers and electricians who were killed by Luke Skywalker on the Death Star.
I knew those guys. I had friends there.
That's right.
He was just on a lunch break. He was having a sandwich.
But you are also a very big Star Wars fan, too.
Yeah,
You've been one for life also.
Since '77, I saw the movie, and I remember exactly where it was. It was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at what was called the University Drive-In. Long gone. In fact, there's became a Showcase Cinemas built on there like 15 years after I saw Star Wars.
Now, you're a year older than me?
I'm a year older, yes.
Okay, because I don't actually remember seeing it. I know I saw it a ton of times, but I don't remember seeing it. Yeah. But as we discussed, you did remember.
That's when I remember. I may have seen it a couple times in the theater, in drive-ins, because we went to drive-ins a lot when I was a kid. But I remember exactly where I saw it. I remember wanting to see it. So my mom and dad took me to see it at the University Drive-In there on Carpenter Road, in Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, Michigan area. And I remember just being entranced. In fact, to the point of the toys that came out. Remember they had to do the giveaway thing. Well, I didn't get that. But the next year, when the toys are actually available, I know Mom's told me the story. Her and my dad went everywhere to find all those Star Wars toys. Right. And I had some of the originals. I had the original X-Wing and TIE Fighter. Yep. Never had the original Millennium Falcon.
Oh, I had that.
So
what I used to do, because I had the original Death Star playset.
I wanted that. I never had that.
What
either.
I would do is I would stand across my room and I would throw my Millennium Falcon across the room so it would hit it and explode it. And that's how I reenacted the final scene.
There you go. I never had it. Always wanted that. But had a lot of the figures. And then didn't get a whole lot after Empire Jedi in terms of action figures. I was always getting different things. And I think part of it too is as I got older. At that point, I still wanted them, but then I had a younger brother who was into like He-Man.
Yep.
So I ended up, saying, well, he gets these toys and I'm getting computers.
Yeah, my absolute earliest Star Wars memories, it's from that same time period of when Episode 4 came out. But I don't remember in the theater, but I do remember the Scholastic School movie book.
I had that too.
Yeah.
And I had to actually re-buy that as an adult because my old one got so worn out and spilled on and everything.
Yeah, I made my mom read that like every night to me. So she knew the Star Wars story well. At least the 20-page super simplified version with all the pictures.
Well, by that point I was reading because my parents made me learn how to read really quick because they didn't want to read to me. But
Brett learned how to read in the womb.
Yeah.
He came out with a book.
So I read that book.
You were like Stewie, weren't you?
Probably, yes. I will kill the fat man.
Indeed.
You vile woman, you.
But
yeah. And I killed my secret twin.
So there was the Scholastic book, and the other one was that little mini book with the 45 record in it.
Right. I don't know if I had that, but I remember seeing that because I used to have tons of those out at that time because you'd get like the little white plastic record player that did 45s as a kid. And I had one of those.
Which we always had to turn up the speed so they all sounded like chipmunks when they...
Exactly. But I had the Scholastic one. In fact, I'd gotten that one. I got the Empire one, and then I was in 6th grade when Jedi came out, and I got the Scholastic book 2 weeks before the movie came out. So I flipped through and looked at all the pictures like, this is just so awesome.
That was our form of spoilers back then. I love those Scholastic books.
Well, I remember getting it. I had like 5 minutes to look at it, and I had to put it in my desk because we got it at school because we were leaving for 6th grade camp, so I couldn't take it with me.
That's the one that had Luke and Leia on the cover.
Yep, and it had more of a red.
Yeah, it was on the sail barges. They're getting ready to do their swing.
So I've got those around somewhere. I've got to go through some boxes and find all that stuff again because I love all that stuff. I was big into Star Wars as a kid. My toys I played with the heck of to the point of some got broken, damaged, and disappeared over the years.
And like you, I had a ton of the toys. The play sets were awesome because, you had the. I would have like the Tatooine, the Jawa scene. It was just like this cardboard, 3D cardboard thing that was the Jawa sandcrawler. Yeah. And you could put R2 on it and you would pull a little lever and it would suck him up into the little vacuum thing. And loved that.
Well, he had like the Cantina set, which I remember. That's how good my memory is. It was a Wish book exclusive for Sears.
Oh wow!
And you could get it from them, and you had the Cantina. I don't remember if it came with like the musician guys or not, but it was like the setup for that. So then you could put your guys in there and stuff like that. But they had all that stuff. They had
that was back when Han shot first,
right?
Before the revisionist history of George Lucas.
Yes,
the special editions.
He always shot first.
Yes,
and I have the original. Some of the original VHS, and I have an original Laserdisc from the 90s. I mean, not the original, but
the Laserdisc. What's really epic about the Laserdisc is the special features. there's a lot of extra scenes and deleted scenes and in the making of and the deleted scenes in the special section that never appeared on any other of the ways that it got released.
Right.
So you find some real gems in the special scenes.
Yeah, I've got the Laserdisc individual of the movies, and then I have...
And for those who are under 20 years old, think of like a DVD, but it was like this big.
For the size of a record, like when you buy now, you hipsters buying your records, that was the size of the Laserdisc.
Yeah,
and you had to flip it over, and depending on how they formatted it, you either had an hour on each side or half an hour. For the better clarity, they did a half hour. And I think they did that with the Star Wars because you had like 4 discs per movie.
Which is funny because the better clarity, it wasn't high definition.
No.
Because we didn't have high def back then.
No, it was still at 480 standard on that. But it made it, actually what it did though with the higher thing, allowed you to do pauses. So it freeze frame on the scene.
Could you zoom in too? Did they have zoom?
Some did, yeah. Some players did. But the beauty was on the regular play ones, you could, if you pause it, the screen went blank or it was fuzzy. Mm-hmm. And the other one, when you pause it, it was a crystal clear. So the neat thing was, I wasn't doing this back then, but if I'd done that, I could have paused it when I was looking for reference.
Now you were mentioning the toys. Now one of the real geniuses of George Lucas and all this was the merchandising. A lot of people look past it. When he arranged the deal for Star Wars, he knew how important the merchandising was, and he worked out the deal so that he had those rights.
Yeah, 20th Century Fox was like, well, we don't want it because we don't make enough off of that stuff anyways.
Right. But if you totally saw the future of that.
I mean, guys like our age back in the 70s and a little older, when they were playing with toys in the 60s and 70s, there was some stuff based on TV and movies and that, but it wasn't a big deal. Yeah. I mean, the big deal in the 70s, I remember, was before Star Wars was 2 things. It was a $6 million man action figure.
Yeah, and you could look through the back of his head.
Yep, I had one of those.
I remember
and then I never had it, but I had friends that did. The Evel Knievel on the bicycle that you had to wind up and then shoot it down. He'd do his stunts.
Yeah, and they also had like a lot of those, like the G.I. Joe size dolls, the 12-inch ones.
Yeah, the big ones.
Like I remember having a Superman and Batman, but it was never done on this huge scale like Star Wars.
No. I mean, the closest thing I can think of would have been the Mego superhero stuff, and even then wasn't that big. Star Trek
Mego?
Mego, M-E-G-O.
Like, it's the Spanish line of superheroes.
No, it's a Mego or Mego.
Okay.
And it was basically like 8-inch tall fabric type dolls.
Right.
But they had the superheroes and things like that. Similar to the G.I. Joes, but not in that scale.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at that marketing, how it's gone. Now everybody tries to copy that model, but to this day...
Well, nobody expected... I mean, Star Wars came out, it was a hit, and he wanted to get toys out. Well, they couldn't get them done for that first Christmas.
Right. So they released this...
you bought this box.
You bought an empty box.
And in the box was a coupon you sent in. And when they were released the following...
figures, I think?
Yeah, and when they released the following May, they sent you the figures. And then they released them all in the store. Right. So, but if you had the original box itself...
It's worth a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because so many of the boxes, people are like, this is cool, and they tossed it.
Right, they kept the coupon.
Right.
Right.
Because they didn't need it, so...
Yep.
But
the marketing and merchandising, Star Wars is still king. I mean, I bought bananas the other day. They were Star Wars bananas. I mean, it's everywhere. It's amazing what they put Star Wars on.
I went grocery shopping yesterday, and it wasn't Star Wars cereals, but they had a bunch of cereals. They all have a Star Wars spoon in them.
Yes, it's like it's everywhere.
I mean, and this was back as a kid, though. We ate all that stuff up. It was like, I got to have this. And then in the 80s, we got 3PO cereal. And
I love 3POs.
And it was a good cereal. That's when they had real sugar.
And they were those, like, they looked like cinder blocks. They I don't know if they were supposed...
It was supposed to be 3PO's head, I believe.
Is that what it was?
But
they looked like little, like, cinder blocks. But,
yeah. It was all that stuff. But, yeah, I mean, definitely. And then you said, I don't think you remembered it, but I remember seeing the actual holiday special the night it aired.
You know what? I don't know if I ever saw the holiday special when it aired. I remember the Ewok Adventure made for TV movies and those. The holiday special, as far as memory goes, I had to go back and watch it years
as
later.
An adult, yeah.
And it was like, oh.
Well, I remember, the funny thing is, I remember seeing it, and it's one of those weird memories I have. Because it was Star Wars. I remember everything Star Wars. And I remember we had gone over to some family, and I got home, and I was like, "Oh, Star Wars is on tonight." I turned on the TV, and there it was.
Right.
So I didn't see the beginning, but I saw probably like the most of it. I probably missed like 10 or 15 minutes into it, not much. So I remember watching that. I remember seeing the Boba Fett cartoon and everything else. Going, this is awesome. Well, and then through the 80s, when I mentioned it to people, because nobody had it because there was no VCRs.
Right.
People that hadn't seen it, you're making that up.
Right.
Nobody believed me until we could start bootlegging stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, because back then it was if you missed it on TV, you never saw it.
Yeah. Fortunately there was these gearhead video guys that video recorded everything. And there's like 3 or 4 decent, I mean, not great, but decent bootleg copies out there. And you can tell they're all different because they all have different station IDs on them.
Right. Yep.
And they vary in quality depending on what kind of equipment they had.
Now, also talking about Star Wars themed products.
Yep.
Me and Brett are both wearing some awesome Star Wars shirts from our sponsor, T-24.
I broke out my Tashi Station, which is an online exclusive.
Which I always enjoy when Brett does his Luke impression for Tashi Station.
Oh, you're going to Tashi Station and get some power converters from my friends.
And then I've got my Palpatine Vader for 2020 shirt on.
My favorite part is it's useless to resist.
It's useless to resist. That's right. So, vote Vader, Palpatine every time. But T-24 is a creator of unique pop culture T-shirts and vinyl decals. At T-24.com, you'll find over 140 graphic tees and hundreds of vinyl decals based on your favorite movies, TV shows, comic books, and video games. So go to their website at www.T-24.com. That's TEEMINUS24.com. And check out their fun selection of products. And after you find something you like, use coupon code ODD at checkout to get 10% off your entire purchase. You can also follow T-24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where they post about their latest design and share updates from the conventions they attend. Shirts to fit your fandom. And
now,
if you
of course,
track them,
at the airing of this, now this is just before Christmas, so you're not going to have time to order today and have it for Christmas. Right. But y'all are going to get some Christmas money in.
That's right.
So the places you need to go are in this order. T-24 because they're our sponsor. Mine and Scott's websites and buy some artwork. You can go to Loringer's, which we'll talk about them in a bit, and get some coupons and gift certificates for a massage. And if you need some printing done or anything like that, you get a hold of International Minute Press. We'll talk about them, like our banner behind us. We'll get to those guys later, though.
Yeah. But also follow up on their websites, because like for Black Friday, they did a lot of big special sales that our coupon code itself wouldn't work on because the deals are so low.
Yeah.
But still go on there and check them out, because there could be pre-Christmas or post-Christmas sales going on when this airs, and New Year sales and all that going on. So,
and at different times they like to do like some bundle deals and things like that. So a lot of cool stuff there.
Or follow our Odd Musings Facebook page if you haven't already, because we, whenever we see that they're running those sales, we always share the posts onto our page as well.
Yep, and then you can link over to them and like their page too. They've done some giveaways, which are pretty cool. They did one before Thanksgiving for one of their Star Wars location shirts.
That's right. So
I didn't win, as usual.
So check them out, T-24. They're awesome.
Yeah, I love those guys, Vinny and Lisa. So if they're listening,
and
I
think they should be in Aruba. Cool as us.
They should be in Aruba today.
They should be in Aruba at the airing of this.
Yeah, so if they're listening to that, well, Merry Christmas to you guys. We'll see you guys sometime after the first of the year. But back to Star Wars, man. Star Wars. Now, we were kind of talking about how the first time we saw Star Wars, and you said you saw it a lot because your mom and dad told you that.
Yeah. Now,
Empire, you were out east, right?
Yeah, I lived in Massachusetts when it came out.
So was it like a neighborhood theater you were able to go to, or
actually it was Showcase Cinemas that were huge out there. Which when I moved out here, they were still around, and I worked at Showcase Cinemas. And
they moved out here in the '80s. They bought a bunch of chains up and built some new ones.
But they were the big theater chain out east.
Okay.
When I was growing up, so that's where I saw it. When I moved, we moved from there, and we lived in Maryland for a while, and that's when the first advertisements for Empire Strikes Back came out.
Okay, yeah.
And now you got to remember, this is pre-internet days, so we don't, nowadays everyone already knows everything about the movie that's coming out a year before it even comes out. Back then, you didn't even know about a movie until it advertised it.
Yeah. Now, I knew about it before I saw any advertisements 2 ways. One was, from other kids in school that happened to be Star Wars fans that had gone to like stores and that, and saw this stuff like coming soon, Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
But I was also a voracious reader, and so whenever I went to the stores with the folks, a lot of times I would get would sometimes get a toy, but I get a book.
Right.
And I read like the Splinter of the Mind's Eye, one of the early Star Wars books about Han Solo and Chewie.
Which actually originally Splinters of the Mind's Eye was originally written to be the sequel movie.
Okay.
That was the original intent of that, and things changed, and then we got Empire instead. But that was actually the original concept for the second movie.
Yeah, and then I haven't read it in 30 years. So, but it was more than that, almost 40 years. It was a fun read. I remember as a kid because I used to read a lot. So I was like 7, 8 years old reading this book. And it was a mass market paperback, had a few hundred pages, so it wasn't like...
I still remember the cover clearly.
Yep, yeah, it had Han, and it had like this orangish cover or something on the one
No, it's... well, I don't know what one
they may have changed it. They had different versions of
the main cover is... you got Vader as a dark silhouette.
Oh, wait, yeah. I know what you're talking about,
Yeah, and then you got Luke... the orange, he has his flight suit, but it's pulled down to the waist, so he's got like a black T-shirt on, if I'm remembering right. And like he's laying down, and Leia's like looking back, and you can see Vader menacingly back there.
Of course, this was back even
then
then during the Marvel comics and stuff like that when Luke was still trying to get with Leia.
yeah.
She's your sister.
Oh, he was still trying in Empire. Well, she kissed him just to make Han jealous, but yeah, we all know how that turned out. But you know what? Nowadays with Game of Thrones, that's nothing. The Lannisters blow the Skywalkers away in that area.
But yeah, I knew about Empire coming out like around 79 because of the books and magazines.
And the early lead up to it, they introduced Boba Fett prior.
Yeah. Well, he was in the holiday special.
Right.
And then everything you saw on like Starlog was a big magazine. I'd get once in a while then. And different things. Whenever I could get this stuff, I saw something Star Wars, I always wanted it. And it was all the speculation, kind of like how we do now on the internet. It was all the speculation, but these were like months and months out. They weren't like,
right.
We heard they're shooting today, and here's the stolen script on the internet.
Yeah, and what's really amazing, and why I think where Empire and Return of the Jedi are so great, I think, is when Lucas really he had when he originally wrote the story, he only intended one movie originally.
Correct.
But he wrote a story that was so big when he actually started like screenwriting it for the first movie. He's like, okay, I wrote way too much.
Well, I read because I used to be able to find him on the internet, the original Journal of the Wills, which was his first or second draft, and everything was completely different than what we ended up seeing in A New Hope.
Right, even the novelization that came out about a year earlier than the movie.
Right, Alan
there is some
Dean
difference.
Foster did that. Yeah,
there are some differences when you read it that happened between the novelization and what came out. There's
right, because he took one of the script drafts, and after that, when he's working on the novelization, and then George went and changed and rewrote the draft like 3 times.
Right. So the original movie, what makes it so good is because originally, when they would do movies, you do a movie, and it's like, oh, it did well enough, let's do a sequel. But the original story was never intended to have a sequel. Well, since this was he broke this one story up into a 3-act play, and did episode 4 first out of the 3. It worked great because it was a continuation of that story that kept going on. And but what was so good about Empire is he delegated. He brought in Irvin Kershner to direct.
Gary Kurtzman.
He had a lot of great talent that assisted and made it what we know today.
Well, he stepped back a little. He oversaw everything, but he stepped back to allow people to do the stuff that he really didn't want to have to do, like with the actual day-to-day directing. Right. Although a lot of ways he was there and kind of directing it too.
Right.
And then the writing, he handed off to people that were better writers than him.
Right. The unfortunate part is when it came to the prequels, he abandoned all that and he became complete. He ended up doing it all. And that's where I think the weakness of the prequels came in. If he had brought in those other talents to delegate. Because when you read the novelization of the prequels, I really like the story there.
Yes.
But the movie, Lucas trying to write romantic dialogue is painful.
Well, that's where, if you saw the Clone Wars, episode 2, I saw it in IMAX after already seeing it, of course, when they released it like 6 months later in IMAX. It was actually a better film in IMAX because they had to trim 20 minutes off to fit the film onto
that's interesting.
Things. So by doing that, it cut out most of the romantic scenes between Anakin and Padme.
Because I didn't know that. But when I watch it, now a lot of people complain about Jar Jar. I'm actually okay with Jar Jar.
I've always liked Jar Jar, and now I'm not running around going, he's the greatest thing ever, but he did what he needed to. The kids loved it. He was the comic relief because we didn't have R2 and C-3PO through the whole thing.
Right.
They popped in and out here and there.
Yeah, and with the whole Jar Jar thing, what a lot of people don't realize is, at least at the time, Jar Jar was actually the number 1 selling action figure because the kids loved him so much. So I can get past Jar Jar. He's not my favorite character, but by any means, he's not
as bad as everybody tries to make him out to be.
But I can tolerate him. But to me, because they came out with that, somebody put together a special edition cut where they cut all the Jar Jar scenes out.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And a lot of people say they like that. For me, when I watch it, every time Anakin and Padme are by themselves, I skip to the next chapter. I think it's a far better movie that way, and it sounds like that's exactly what they did for the IMAX.
Cut. Yeah, they cut most of that out, so we didn't have
Anakin sitting there going, "I hate sand." Yeah. I mean, come on.
Most of it, if I remember, what they cut out was a lot of the stuff
as
on
you. Come on, Anakin.
Yeah, but it was all the stuff when they were on her planet and stuff that. Yeah, they cut a lot of that stuff out with with her laying in the grass and everything else. And
so I will say a lot of people will really rip on the prequels. I still enjoy them.
Yeah.
I think Lucas overreached. He felt the need to explain every little detail and its origin, and that detracted from the personal nature of the story that made it so good in the original example.
In some ways, I wish he would have done is taking the first two movies and kind of combined them. Not so much to age Anakin like halfway through, but you can start off where you get them, and then introduce the clone troopers at this point. So having something happen with that where we get the clone troopers, and then with the second movie, then we have the older Anakin, and towards the end he's turning. But the third one is he fully turns, and we get more of what we've been seeing through Rebels, even in that aspect of the hunt for the Jedis. We didn't get a whole lot of that. It was very shortened in 3. Oh, spoilers! That came out 15 years ago. But
well, for me, what would have made it better is I don't mind the way he did episode 1, 2, and 3 as far as content of story. I think he got too mired into the behind the scenes politics of what Palpatine was doing, and I think that took away a lot of time that could have been spent on developing the personal relationships between main characters.
Yes,
and for instance, episode 4. We never even see the Emperor, and all they say is the Emperor is done away with the Senate.
Yes,
that's it. Now, had Lucas been making episode 4 now, he would have included 2 hours of what was going on in the Senate to cause that to happen. We don't need to know that. Just tell us it collapsed. Boom.
He kind of fell into some trappings of a lot of people that are creating stories early on. They want to tell every aspect. It's like, no. Some stuff you write down, but you don't include it. It's for you as the writer or the creator
just
to
for
have
your
for reference.
And
a line or two a lot of times can explain exactly what you need.
Exactly. And especially a world like Star Wars, you have so much going on that through the HoloNet feed or whatever, you could have some kind of news flash pop up that just is like the hardcore fan sees like, oh, there's that's what's happening there.
Yeah, and with what we got now is you can actually go back now and say, okay, we'll do these with now that Disney owns Lucasfilm. Do a Star Wars story that centers on a specific thing, like they did with Rogue One. It's like we kind of know what happens there, but to see it actually happen, I thought was really cool. But let's get back to the prequels because I love the prequels as well. Yes, they are flawed. We're not getting into that aspect of it. There's a lot of things I think both Scott and I could sit there and talk about all the things that kind of went wrong with it.
No, I don't do that.
What went right with it was
Star Wars is a sacred place in my heart.
Well, the key words is we could, but
I acknowledge, but I don't.
That's about what I do. I acknowledge, but I don't get into it. People when they go, "Well, you like it? I can't believe you like it." I look and say, "You know what? It's Star Wars."
It's Star Wars.
I went and saw each one on opening day. I remember Phantom Menace. This was a few months after my nephew was born. And so my brother was still living with my nephew. I woke him up at like 4 a.m. and said, come on. And we went and picked up another friend of ours, actually Pastor Coleman, took him with us. And we went and saw at 5 o'clock in the morning The Phantom Menace because they were showing them all night. Remember, people were lining up for the midnight screenings. This is before they started doing 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. screenings.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not going to go see it at midnight. But I said, I got up and we bought a ticket. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, it was half filled. We watched it. I took them back home, and I had to go to work that morning. So I went to work. People were like, oh, did you go to the midnight showing at Star Wars? Like, nope, I went at 5 a.m. They go, huh? I was like, they were showing it all night long. So I got up, went and saw it, took my brother home,
that's awesome.
Showered again, and then headed to work.
Another, so you're talking about Return of the Jedi?
No, I'm talking about Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, with that time frame, too, there was such a gap between them. But prior to that, what a lot of the newer fans don't realize is there was a dark age for Star Wars in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And where nothing was coming out, the fan base was kind of waning. And that's where the expanded universe was created. And Timothy Zahn wrote a series of books, and they were phenomenal. And it revived
I had to have, when I found out they were out, I bought them all in hardcover.
Yeah, and that covered the Clone Emperor.
Yep. Yeah, it took place after Jedi. It was several years after. I think 5 years after, wasn't it?
Well, I'm blanking on the name all of a sudden. Heir to the Throne? Was that it?
Heir to the Empire.
Heir to the Empire.
Yeah, and then you had 3 books in that.
What's the? Or was Heir to the? No, that Dark Empire was what I was just thinking of.
Yeah, there was
Heir to. Let's just look at the Google.
The Google knows all. But it was he's of course did the Thrawn one here recently.
Yeah, he created Thrawn, which was a really popular character in the expanded universe, and now with the renewed timeline under Disney, I'm really glad they've brought Zahn back, and they brought Thrawn back, but they brought Zahn back to write the book about him, which was great since he knows the character inside and out.
Okay, the Thrawn trilogy, as it's called, it was Heir to the Empire, so we had that right.
Okay,
and you were close on it. Dark Force Rising is the second book, and The Last Command was the third book.
All the titles blend together because in the expanded universe, I read somewhere between 70 and 80 of the books at the time. Yeah,
and then those came out around the time that Dark Horse started doing their Dark Empire.
Dark Empire came
which was an awesome 6-issue miniseries comic run.
Yeah, and
which
in that
launched
series,
the comic side of Star Wars again.
Yeah, and in that series, Luke actually converts to the dark side.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, since it's been so long, he does it as a strategy to conquer the bad guys because he thinks he's strong enough to not fall to the dark side, but he's wrong. And then he actually fully goes to the dark side, and he has to come back.
Yeah, I remember when those came out because again, now I was in 6th grade when Jedi came out, and I remember seeing it a few times that summer. In fact, it was, and this is of course pre-home video being big. At this time, VHS was just starting to take over, but people still didn't all own them, so they weren't releasing the movies as quick as they do now. So it came out in May that year. My birthday's in August, and I was still able to go to the movies and see it on my birthday.
Yeah,
and because it was still showing at the drive-in.
The original Star Wars actually had a
1 year anniversary,
celebrating the 1 year anniversary because it was in there. It was something like 58 weeks or something. Yeah. In most theaters. So isn't that crazy? Now movies last like 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, the early megaplexes in the 70s, they kept it running because it was people still went and saw it.
And you had the constant line.
And then they did an official extra release of it. It was coming back for 2 weeks, so it never really left. They did a poster with the Star Wars, and it had like a cake and everything on it.
Right.
In fact, that poster, if you have one, the original ones are worth big money right now.
Another cool thing, too, with the expanded universe is that was like the dawn, too, of the high-end video games where some really cool adventures came out.
Yeah, it wasn't too long after that the Super Nintendo came out, and they released all the original movies as a video game.
Yeah,
and those were actually really cool.
The original Star Wars video game, where it's just the
lines,
the green lines, the what would you call it? It's just like the 3D shell of a 3D.
Yeah, thing. The trench run.
Yeah, the vectors or whatever they call them. But that to this day, that's one of my favorite games.
It was fun. I used to play the heck out of that.
Oh yeah,
a lot of quarters went into that game.
Oh yeah, the TIE fighter shooting. They had those like little star.
Yeah, you had this little like it was not the same control stick, but you had like the dual hand like
and you twist it and fire. That it was so cool. Then you go into that trench run and
and the first time you do that, it's kind of you really. Kids nowadays wouldn't understand, but when we were that, and there was no graphics that good. So
back then that was our version of a 3D game,
right? And it was one of the earliest ones to do something like that. So
I really wish Stranger Things would have had them playing that game because that would have been.
Well, I think it would have been. But with being 84, that would
was later. But.
Well, that was actually about 3 years after the original Star Wars arcade game or so. I want to say that was around 81, 82.
Yep.
So when of course with the
84. Yeah, that's when Return of the Jedi came out.
That was a year after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, so then the video game was they had where it was kind of an aerial shot, kind of a 3D view, and you could steer your speeder bike through the forest and it would always kill me because you couldn't see where the trees really were. You weren't lined up with it, so I just could not make it through that level.
No, it
drove me crazy.
But yeah, I had a Super Nintendo, so I played all those games, and then they started coming out as people started getting more home computers.
Right, the PC games is what I loved.
Yes, I used to have like an old Boba Fett game, but you and I talked a few weeks back. Both of us played that original X-Wing game.
Yep, the X-Wing series was really good on there. And
the X-Wing and TIE Fighter.
Yep.
While the TIE Fighter was still good, the X-Wing one I think was superior.
X-Wing was amazing.
Mainly for storytelling. It had a really good story through all of like 50 missions, and they weren't easy.
Was that the one where they introduced the Dark Troopers there, where they had the Super Troopers?
I think
space? Was that old? They had Old Republic. There's so many. I played too many. They're all blending into one.
The Boba Fett game I had on PC back in the late '90s introduced the Dark Troopers.
Okay.
You were Boba Fett and you were taking on the Empire as missions and stuff like that,
nice.
or something like that, or it was a Star Wars game where you end up fighting Boba Fett. I forget how it went. But it was an early game on the PC in the '90s. So,
well, one thing Boba Fett needed though after his encounter with the Sarlacc, I think he needed chiropractic work. What do you think?
Yes, and he did. So you know what he could have gone? He could have gone to Loringer Family Chiropractic.
If they have an office in a galaxy far, far away, that is.
Well, and if they don't, they are located in Belleville, Michigan, as well as Dexter, Michigan. And And at Lawrenger Family Chiropractic Center PC, they take great pride in providing the finest chiropractic care to each and every patient. They offer on-site digital x-rays, massage therapy, orthotics by foot levelers, Young Living essential oils, aromatherapy, and a full line of vitamins. And they do this all in a family-oriented environment. Give them a call, 734-697-4244. Visit them at LawrengerFamilyChiropractic.com. We do have a link at oddmusings.com to go directly to them. And we do periodically share when they have stuff on Facebook.
Right.
Stuff like I did for the Saturday, Small Business Saturday. They shared some stuff because they do gift certificates. So you can get something like massages. And what a great gift to give a call right now to them and say, hey, I need a gift certificate for Christmas. Give it to somebody so when January comes and they're stressing out over their bills, they can go get a massage.
That's right. Go get that massage.
Definitely.
Awesome. And they do quality work. I can't recommend them enough.
Yep. I've been a patient for several years and love them and appreciate their business with us.
So while we could talk about the expanded universe all day, the reality is Disney purchased Lucasfilm, and they didn't do away with the expanded universe. What they've done is they've retitled it as the Legends line.
Yeah.
And basically the way it goes is like when you're watching episode 7, you hear Rey say how I thought that was all myth. Basically, the Legends line is kind of like the stories Rey would have heard, the word-of-mouth history of the Star Wars universe, whereas we are now learning the true history as Mickey Mouse has come to determine.
I think the beauty of what the Disney buying Lucasfilm was, one, they kept Kathleen Kennedy on to help run everything.
Yeah, she's been around since the very start. She has worked side by side with George from the very earliest days, so she knows it inside
and she's
out.
Passionate about everything that Lucasfilm does.
She is. She actually, to be honest, I think she actually cares about it more than George ever did. Because George, sci-fi is not his thing.
Well, he loves sci-fi. He wanted to do a Buck Rogers movie. And
right.
He could never get the rights, so he created Star Wars.
Exactly. Thankfully, he didn't get the rights.
Thank God he did.
Yes.
And he enjoys sci-fi and stuff like that. But at the same time, he got so burnt out directing.
Well, he always wanted to move on to other projects.
Right.
Star Wars was a thing he did, but he never intended it to be his life.
He's always had more ideas and stuff like that.
But I think Kathleen Kennedy has a legitimate passion.
Yes.
And so in many ways, I feel more hopeful of the future of the Star Wars universe in her hands than in George's. Because I think George, it was kind of a burden almost. Like, it's like, okay, I'm forced.
Even with the prequels, he did it, and it was part of a passion thing for him to kind of finish that part of the story.
Right.
But really he didn't. I mean, he talked, in the 80s about, well, I've got 12 episodes in mind and different things. So there's still video on YouTube and stuff like that. But then he came out and said, no, I really just wanted to do these 6.
Yeah. Well, it was 9 episodes, but originally, according to an interview I heard with him, this was, well, I'm going to say about 5 years ago, but I'm at the age now where everything was about 5 years ago. So who knows how long ago it was. But what he said was, because he wrote the original script and that ended up being 3 movies.
Right.
And when he labeled it episode 4, he did it to make it feel like you're jumping into the action. So then that naturally caused people to say, wait a minute, how many episodes are there? So he did some quick math and he's like, well, I wrote basically 3 movies here.
Yeah.
The backstory I wrote is about as long, so that's probably 3 more.
Yeah, he had a big binder full of this stuff he said.
So he felt he legitimately had 6 movies. So then he did some quick math and he's like, I could easily come up with enough content to do 3 more. So he said 9.
Yeah.
But he never really intended there to be 9. And
but us fanboys, he said 9, you got to give us 9.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, because he said that.
Right.
So we
took him at his word.
We took him at his word. He's like, okay, give us 9.
But first time I heard, it's funny how many people I know that were like, oh my God, I can't believe Disney's buying Star Wars. They're going to ruin it. Yeah. And I would look at him and said, no.
I was not worried at all.
I never was.
Because we saw what they did with Marvel.
Right.
They were great for Marvel.
Well, and Disney over the years, while they don't have some of these anymore, they had different divisions they bought, like Miramax and Buena Vista, while they owned it, was a separate division. Yeah. And they allowed them to run independent of the Disney product that we know.
Right. I always compare them to the Roman Empire.
Yes.
The Romans would conquer, but they would allow them to maintain their identity and their culture. So it's like, as long as you're paying taxes to Caesar, you can live. Yeah. And that's pretty much what Disney does. It's like, hey, operate within, here's our guidelines, but you can keep your culture within the guidelines. We're fine with it.
And with Kathleen kind of running it, they basically did all that change was who actually owns the company.
Correct.
They kept pretty much everything else the same.
Yeah, the culture remained the same, which is key.
And that's why when we got The Force Awakens, it jumped right into the universe. And to me, I was super excited. And I was really happy with the outcome of that movie.
I really enjoyed Force Awakens. A lot of people, it does kind of, there's a lot of people who don't like it, which that's you're right. Personally, I liked it because, yes, it was a soft reboot, is what it was. Yes, they had another Death Star type vehicle. There's so much that mirrors it. But the reality is, Disney just paid like $6 billion, whatever it was. It was crazy to own this thing. They wanted a home run on the first try. They knew that story worked, so they did a soft reboot.
Well, and it also was a great way to reintroduce us to the universe as it is 30 years later.
Right. And they did it in such a way that it honored what the past was. It gave us our beloved characters still.
Yep.
But it did it in a way that introduced new characters. And, to say, let's be honest, Star Wars has always had certain character types.
Right.
Like even in the popular games and other things, we know Boba Fett's popular. So there's always some version. In the animated Clone Wars, there was Cad Bane, which was basically Clint Eastwood version of Boba Fett. In the video games, you have these other characters which are basically Boba Fett, just they look different. We have these character types that keep appearing because they know it works.
Right.
And they wanted to do something that they knew worked. What I love so much about Force Awakens was, the prequels, while I still enjoyed them, I know their flaws. They were too sterile. The heart was missing. To me, Daisy Ridley brought the heart back into the universe.
I mean, the three main characters to me all brought such to it. Daisy Ridley was the center of this.
Yep.
And while there was some initial argument, they're just trying to have a female hero.
Yeah.
This is what we needed was a character, male or female didn't matter, but a character that truly brought the heart in.
Yep.
That brought you in. And it was also like Luke. She didn't want to originally be the hero. She's like, I just want to go back to Jakku because I'm waiting for my folks.
Right.
Luke originally was like, I can't go with you because I got my aunt and uncle here.
Then you had Friend Zone Finn.
Yep.
who was forever dissed by.
Yep. Why are you grabbing my hand? Why are you hugging me?
If you go on YouTube and do a search for Friend Zone Finn, there's a hilarious. I think it was from College Humor. That did a funny animated video and just shows how over and over again Finn's like, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" And he keeps trying, and at the end, he gets mortally wounded for Rey's sake, and he's in a coma. And he's thinking, "This is it. I'm finally going to get kissed." And she kisses him on the forehead and says, "Thank you, friend." Yeah. And he's like in his head going, "No." Poor Finn. Really, this next episode is just Finn's attempt to become her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so we got that. I love that. And then we've had from that they did Rogue One was the first
Rogue One.
Now, Star Wars story, which is the first of the standalone movies.
Yes, and so well done. That could have gone so many different ways, and even up right to the very end, the way they ended up doing that movie. What was great about it is Star Wars has always been geared towards the 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. As that was the target audience, and we love it as adults. They're done as ways that as adults you can love them. But Rogue One was really the first Star Wars movie aimed at mature audience,
right?
And
they definitely had a more adult feel to it.
Yeah, and they had it as ground warfare. It was gritty. It was, and everyone died.
We saw a side of the rebels that we had not seen before.
Correct.
These weren't the ultimate heroes. These were the ones that laid the groundwork for the ultimate heroes to come in.
They got dirty to make things happen for the rebellion. Yep. But the way they tied the whole movie together, where to me it's not even a separate movie anymore. Mm-hmm. It's really you watch Rogue One and Episode 4 back to back. It's one movie. It's really amazing.
Well, and the time frame between the very end of Rogue One till the start of A New Hope, they said it was only about an hour.
Correct. 1 hour. Yep.
So, and we got to see, the Tantive 4, the original Rebel cruiser.
Now, for the real nerds, we know where in the galaxy they started, and we know an hour later they're at Tatooine. You could now calculate the speed of warp of light speed for Star Wars. There's always the debate: is warp speed in Star Trek faster or slower than light speed in Star Wars?
Star Wars is hyperspace.
Star Wars is much faster.
Yes,
because they don't attempt to actually follow any laws of physics.
Right. And they're going through what's called hyperspace, which is like unseen tunnels almost through space.
Yeah, who knows? It's wherever George wants them to appear.
Exactly. I need them there now. Okay, here we go.
we need a 10-minute gap for dialogue in another location. Send them into light speed.
There you go. And, of course, all the little fighters for the Rebels can do that, too. So
coming up, we have Episode 8 coming, which just got released, actually. And then in May of 2018.
2018,
will be the Han Solo movie.
Right, yeah.
So we'll see where that goes.
And supposedly that's where we learned where Han Solo comes from.
Correct.
How his relationship with Chewie, I believe, started. We learned about that. And rumor is we'll see the Kessel Run. Yep. And so we can learn what that really is and things like that. So I'm really excited about that. Of course, if you've seen any of the Lego Star Wars stuff the last couple of years on Cartoon Network, Han Solo actually was supposed to be tied in with the young Jedi and Yoda in one of those episodes.
Oh.
None of it's canon, of course, but...
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Then we have... Also, another part of the Star Wars universe is the animated series. We had animated Clone Wars that came out, and that's still considered canon material. Yep. And we also have Star Wars Rebels, which is the current series. In
its final season. Now, episodes 1 through 9 have already aired.
Correct.
So we've seen that. A break. In 2018, we'll get the last 9.
Right, which you had an interesting theory about why did they break when they did.
Well, originally they were showing 2 episodes a week. So I was like, well, they could run right up through episode 18 leading up to The Last Jedi.
Right.
But they took a break. So my thought is, we've been hearing rumors that it's tying into the current movies.
Right.
So if it's doing that, maybe there's something that, when we'll see in the movie, and then when we come back, it all makes sense as what's going on.
Whereas if they aired them all in a row, it might
be a
reveal a spoiler of something that happens in episode 8. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm curious to find out. My speculation has always been Benicio del Toro is somehow Ezra,
and I've bought into that same speculation because it feels like that's what it could be once you heard Benicio was coming in.
Now, you listening right now, you will be saying we already know the answer because we've seen it. Well, we haven't seen it yet because we're pre-recording,
and we're coming to you from the past.
From a galaxy far.
But something you can do now in the present is you can go visit our sponsor, International Minute Press. This is our last sponsorship for the day, and they're Minute Press. This is our last sponsorship for the day, and they're located in Plymouth, Michigan. And what do? They design, print, and promote you. For those watching on YouTube or on our Facebook page, the banner was done by International Minute Press, our sponsor. Very happy with it, great quality, and have awesome pricing on that. But they offer specialty printing services, custom graphic designs, marketing consultation, and promotional products. IMP has the services and skills to help artists and entrepreneurs looking to take their business to the next level by exceeding client and customer expectations. They are located at 1058 South Main Street in Plymouth, Michigan. Give them a call, 734-414-6203. They have a long website address, so we have a link at oddmusings.com for you to go on over and check them out and hit them up for any of your printing needs. While Christmas cards would not be good to get today at this airing, they do New Year's cards, I'm sure, as well as, I'm sure, Valentine's cards.
Birthdays.
They do all kinds of different things, not just stuff for your business. So check into them for whatever you need for any printing needs, and they can take care of you.
That's indeed true.
But so we've had Rebels, we've had Clone Wars.
So what's the future of Star Wars? Where are we going? Well, what we know, Star Wars Rebels wraps up after this season. So when they finish these last 9 episodes, it's done.
Yep.
And from all accounts, it seems like the ending of it will tie right into Rogue One. We don't know how exactly. But
we do know from seeing Rogue One, we did see elements from them. We saw Chopper in the background. We saw the Ghost.
The Ghost appeared in many of the space fights.
Yep.
So we know they're present. We don't know the outcome, though.
We don't know all of who's there, really.
In the hangar scene, we do hear General Sedula Page over the loudspeaker, which is Hera, the pilot of Ghost One. The Ghost.
Yep.
Not Ghost One. So we'll see where it goes. Now, I have a theory.
Yes.
Because the animated series have been very popular. Clone Wars did great. They wrapped that up after, I believe, 5 seasons. Then they created Rebels, which jumped us into a new time frame. My bet is I think they're going to do another cartoon series. Now, nothing's been announced.
Right.
But my bet is the next series will take place right after Return of the Jedi and follow Han, Leia, Luke, all them, and they will tell us the tale of what happened after Return of the Jedi.
I would love that.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
Pure speculation. I don't know if it's more theory or more hope, but I really want that. I would love to see that because we don't really know the tale of what happened.
Well, I know that the couple speculations on the different versions of the TV show is now they're going to do a live TV show, and it's supposed to be on the new Disney streaming channel sometime after 2019. They haven't announced a release on that yet. They just said we're going to do a live action, and instead of going to Netflix, they're bringing it to their own.
Now,
rumors on that have been, and it's all strictly rumors, unspeculated and that or unsubstantiated, is they were going to follow either some of the bounty hunters, but different parts of the galaxy not tied into the episodes.
Now, prior to Disney buying Lucasfilm, George Lucas did develop a full, comprehensive live-action TV show where they fully scripted every episode. Everything is laid out for 5 seasons of a live-action series. And when Disney bought it, they bought that package.
Right.
And the reason why they didn't do anything with it at the time is Rich McCollum. He was saying there's so much up in the air as far as platforms right now because Netflix was emerging at the time. You know, do you do it on something like that? Do you do something on HBO? Do you do it through network TV? They weren't sure of how they would want this released, so they were just holding back to find out.
As well as the cost associated with that.
Correct. So the landscape has changed a lot, and now Disney has announced they're going to move forward. So the question is, are they going to do this?
Yeah.
The indicators, we don't know for sure, but the series that Lucas did, all the rumors pointed to it was a Boba Fett series.
Right.
And they originally were doing the video game they were producing called Level 1313.
Right.
And that turned out to be Boba Fett you were following as the main character. That got canceled. But the belief is that the storyline was moved over to the live action. So is Disney going to use that, or are they going a completely different route? I don't know.
It's one of the things where I think they might take it more as a guideline.
If they do,
and then maybe vary from there.
Yeah. But if they do Level 1313 or whatever it is, Daniel Logan, who played young Boba Fett in Episode 2, he's the perfect age to play Boba Fett now.
Yes.
In the setting of that timeline. So, or if they decide to make the timeline now, guess what? Tamora Morrison, who played Jango Fett, he's the right age to play Boba Fett now.
Right.
If they're going with the current timeline. So you got both actors, which are great actors. So we'll see where that goes. Then we have the new trilogy, which Ryan, how do you say?
I think it's Rian. It's R-A-N Johnson.
The director who's making Episode 8.
Yep.
They obviously love his work because they assigned a deal. He's writing and gonna. He's given
a 3-movie deal within Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's gonna write. I believe he's gonna direct all 3, but they basically want him to write the entire trilogy.
Right.
He has a story now.
And the only thing they've told us is it's not a Skywalker story.
Correct. The Skywalker story ends with Episode 9.
Right.
And if they choose to continue on calling them episodes, which they've originally said they wouldn't, but there's different things popping up saying they might.
Yeah.
I don't care either way. I mean, until they actually do it.
My irresponsible speculation is I really think. Now you guys will know because you've seen Episode 8, so this is pure theory on my part. I really think Snoke is going to be an ancient Sith Lord that's pulling a Voldemort and coming back from the dead and making himself whole, almost like a Force vampire where he's feeding off the Force somehow to make himself whole again. And my gut tells me he's going to be doing an Old Republic story, and that'll get us into Darth Raven and all them.
Well,
because the fans love that. And Disney knows,
I would love to see that.
And Disney knows what the fans love means money.
But, of course, the Old Republic, that was another speculation that, and it was talked about, they may do that as a TV series. And that would have been cool, too.
That would be cool, too. And I really want to see the Havoc Troopers in live action, which are the Stormtrooper version of the soldiers in the Old Republic. Love that costume.
Yeah.
Someday I want to, if I can ever earn real money, I'll when I grow up, I'll buy myself that kit to build.
Yes.
Because I love how that looks also. So
but
what else?
The future speculation, we're going to have more. We know we're going to see a lot more stuff coming out. It's all going to be in canon. There's not going to be any side stuff that won't be. Marvel has taken over all that, the comics and that, so we'll see that. So TV shows and movies.
And other speculation, because they are saying there's going to be other trilogy movies. There's potentially an Obi-Wan movie, which I really hope because
and a Yoda.
Ewan McGregor is saying he's willing to do it.
He's been actually campaigning for it, but then they're talking about a Yoda one as well.
Yeah, Yoda, I don't know. I have mixed feelings because do we want a young Yoda?
Well, it being 900 years old, though, he can go back to towards the end of the Old Republic.
Now, if you do Old Republic, that would make sense to tie him into it. Because then you would have a young Yoda and see what happens there. But a part of me wonders, if you try to do a young Yoda, will you do? It'll be hard to come up with a version that all the fans like.
Right.
And you're going to have half the fan base saying, "Oh, he looks like crap." You know.
Well, he's going to be a little skinnier and a little drawn out, and he's going to walk better. And
I have seen some cool concept art by regular artists who speculate what he looks like, and there are some really badass versions of young Yoda. So we'll see. Yeah. And he could be an irresponsible little twat.
So if they took him back several hundred years, I think it'd be cool to see him in that universe and see how some things played out.
But part of me likes the idea too. Like you could go a completely different way, where it's its own independent thing, separate. You could go into the future too. You know, who knows? But it's all cool to me. It's Star Wars, so I like it.
Yeah, if anything Star Wars, I'm right there with you. It's whatever we can get. So anything else for you to cover?
On? No. So those of you listening, Christmas is coming up. It's right around the corner, just 5 days away. And so we, wish everyone a Merry Christmas and.
Yeah, hopefully you guys getting some cool Star Wars toys this year and things like that. I know I always ask for Santa for Star Wars toys. And we'll see what I get. Of course, I end up buying a lot. Like I didn't have a Millennium Falcon as a kid, but I bought one in the 90s.
Yep. And I ask Santa for money all the time because I got to pay for these dang tables we always go.
Actually, that's all I want right now is just some money.
Just money to buy tables for future Comic-Cons.
Yeah, so we can go and geek out and have fun and hopefully meet you guys.
See all of you guys. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I always look forward to is making money and seeing you guys. In that order.
That's right. So that's it for me. How about you, Brett?
I think that's it. Scott, you have a Merry Christmas.
Yep. And you too, Jay, have a Merry Christmas and
I think
take us out.
Cool. See ya.